بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا Man, I'm having a rough start this morning. Let me try this again. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. I praise Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. I thank Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. I ask Allah to send countless blessings and salutations on Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all those who follow them in excellence until the day of judgment. And I ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant us the sincere and noble intentions. Eid Mubarak to all of y'all. Kulu amma antum bi khair. Insha'Allah ta'ala, I wanted to have some brief reflections, as I know many people will be going out to pray, so I won't make it long. But I wanted to give an example, one or two, of Islamic critical thinking. So we were talking about the importance of this. And when we say Islamic critical thinking, we were talking about using Islamic critical thinking for freedom and independence. So there are certain things that are implied in that title. Number one, I'll start from the end of that title and come to the beginning of it. Freedom and independence. It is my view, and as my teachers would say, I could be right and I could be wrong. But I add, I highly doubt I'm wrong. That we, as an African American Muslim community or Black Muslims in America, our community is not free and is not independent. And what do I mean by that? Okay, don't worry about Imam Fahim, just tune in, my brother. What do I mean by that? I believe, and I've noticed from observation, that we are still in Islam functioning as a colonized people. Some willingly and some unwillingly. And what do I mean by that? I mean that our whole Islamic thought process is controlled by others for their political or religious aspirations. I'm trying to word this in a way that will force you to critically think about what I'm saying. I think about this a lot. And that's why we really have the title, the Black Imams Roundtable. We keep using this black, black, black for a purpose. There's an old saying that goes, if you don't use your mind, someone else will for you. If you don't use your mind, someone else will for you. And what we've noticed is that we, as a people, have never really examined Islamic sciences and therefore the deen itself with our own aspirations as a people at the forefront of our look. We always look at Islam through the eyes and aspirations of other people. Hence, Islam for us has become a means of collective subjugation to other people, no matter who the other people may be. It varies depending who gives us information. So, does everyone follow me on that? I want you to think, listen to me, and then have your own thoughts. But I'm going to walk you through it so you can start to think. If you look at all of our communities, you will find wherever we are learning from, we become like them. So, for instance, go through the history of Islamic movements in the African American community in America. And I'm quite sure it's probably has its traces in other places, but not like America. So that's why I'm speaking on the African American reality. I'll give you an example. When we learned Islam from India and Pakistan, when the literature, when the teachers came from that, you find African American Muslims dressing like Pakistanis, talking like Pakistanis or Indians, eating like Pakistanis and Indians, and considering that an integral part of their Islam. Anyone who's observed that, tell me if I'm wrong. I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about a collective mentality, because there's always individuals who don't do that. That always exists in anything. We're talking about the vast majority of people who have received the route of Islam, that's what they do. Okay. Move. When a lot of their Islam came from Saudi Arabia, and the people were learning through Saudi Arabian books, studying in Saudi Arabia, having Saudi Arabian teachers, observe that they started to dress like Saudis, talk like Saudis, think like Saudis, even identify with the Saudi culture. As if it didn't come from Saudi, it's not Islam. Did we not observe that trend? Move. If you look at brothers and sisters who learn from West Africa, Senegal, Ghana, Gambia, you'll notice, Nigeria, you'll notice that they took on that whole culture, that whole ideology, that whole thought, right? And they became just like them. So what you'll notice in this, all of them are different. They're not the same. So the Pakistani culture, the Saudi culture, the African culture, and the Shami culture, those who learned in Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, you'll find they did the same exact thing. No matter where we went, we never were ourselves. We always became whoever we were trying to learn Islam from. And my point is that all of those are different. They're different cultures, they're different thoughts, and even they have different ideologies about Islam, how to practice the deen, how to implement the deen, how to understand the deen. And it is all based on their specific aspirations and political ideologies and social norms as a people. This is known fact. I should just pay attention, right? Now, the question never comes to us, what should Islam look like for us as a people? Now, what becomes a problem with that, why we don't think like that, why we don't ask those critical questions, number one, through all the things we went through on this land, one of the designs of slavery and the traces of it is that we no longer see ourselves as a people. I want to repeat that. One of the problems for that, that caused that, is that due to the slavery and the traces of it on these shores in America, we no longer see ourselves in reality as a people. We always subconsciously see ourselves as the possession of another people. It's a subconscious thing. It's not at the forefront of your mind. But the subconscious oftentimes dictates what happens outwardly. When you see yourself as inferior, as less than, as a colonized people, you're going to act like that, even if you never say the words. But if that's your mindset, it's going to come out in your actions. So one of the things we need to do is start to identify ourselves as a people in Islam. And every people have their own aspirations and ideologies within Islam. Every people. So the job is upon us to identify what does Islam look like for us as a people. Are y'all following me here? I know it's early in the morning, but I'm trying to get us somewhere. So I'm walking it slow in this review. Everybody with me? This type of thinking by those who we emulate will not be accepted. Due to subconsciously, they think that you're supposed to be a subject to them. So how dare you think that you are independent of us? And then we will take that thought and say we're doing something Islamically wrong, while they do it as a norm because they saw Islam as a nation of people and they took Islam and made it their own. And then when they exported it to us, they said to us, this is Islam. Not that this is Islam with our aspirations and culture and political ideology as a people. It was just given to us as Islam. And a lot of that came to the shores of America. But all of them would agree in practice, even if they don't say it, that you black people must follow one of our Islams, not Islam as it is, because you don't know Islam. You only know Islam as I gave it to you. Do y'all follow this? I'll give you an example. And I gotta say this because it's the most hilarious thing you would ever hear if you travel. So I know some black people, Muslims, who got their Islam from Lebanon, Lebanese teachers. And this is hilarious if you ever traveled and you know about the Islamic countries around the world. This is laughable. So one of those African Americans who got their Islam from Lebanon and their teachers from Lebanon said that the real place for Islam and knowledge is Lebanon. Say that again. I'll tell you the mentality. You want the real deen, you have to go to Lebanon. I would venture to say Lebanon is the worst place to go try to learn Islam. Like, I'm talking about in its country, in its practice, and it's what's going on there, probably the worst place to go if you want to learn deen, especially for us. Lebanon is a poor version of France trying to emulate the West. How would such a place become an ideal place to go be and learn and practice Islam? They don't even learn and live and practice Islam as a country. They don't. It's a mess. But in our mind, we have this concept of whoever I learn from, whatever they do, that's the right thing for us. That's our Islam. And this is crazy. That's if you've traveled. Sorry, I messed up I'm not good at this computer stuff, so I didn't even know how to send you the thing next time. But I'm just giving you the thought pattern of us. So if that person that mentioned that obviously didn't travel to other Islamic countries to just observe and realize that doesn't make any sense at all. Not even close to making any sense. But without critical thinking skills, that's not only that makes sense, it's reality and undisputable truth. Because the person don't critical think, and we've become a colonized people with a colonized mind. So there is a challenge for us to observe all of what we see and then start to think as a people. Are y'all following me so far? And when I say, are you following me? Do you see the truthfulness or some truthfulness in the points I'm making? As you critically think about what I'm saying. So I put forth certain thoughts that led me to a conclusion. So I have this premise, I have this premise, and this conclusion, right? That's the process of critical thinking. You have certain statements, certain thoughts, certain ideas. And if these ideas are true, they're going to lead you to a certain conclusion. That's the process of critical thinking. And when I say Islamic, because we're talking about Islamic things, which is going to add some elements that we need to think about. All right. So one challenge for us with that is to start thinking as a people, as every other people on the face of the earth think as a people. So I want us to copy this. Right? So, can we all copy this? It's very important. This is the beginning skill that we need before we can have proper Islamic critical thinking. Us. If we don't see ourselves and think as a people or a nation, we're never going to critically think about anything we see in the deen. You're always going to just follow blindly the ideas of others because you don't see yourself as a people. You don't see it. You see yourself as a servant of people. So you're not going to question anything. You're not going to look at anything. And this is what every nation in the world did, even in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are many authentic hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent to different people. And when people would come to him, he would tell them, go call your people to Islam. This was known, well known. I could give you hadith after hadith after hadith after hadith, story after story after the whole mission of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was dealing with different groups of people and respecting them as a people. This is important. That is from his sunnah. So once we do that, now when you see yourself as a people and you learn Islam as a way of life, you're going to see how does this way of life of al-Islam fit for the aspirations of us as a people, as individuals, as families, as a society. Let me ask you something. All of us do realize that around the world, everybody thinks and moves as a collective for their people and the aspirations of their people. We do realize that, right? Everybody around the world, even when they leave their home countries, when they go to other countries, they formulate their own communities to protect their people. Do you not notice that? I'll give you an example. And it bothers me. It bothers me a lot. And I hope it don't bother me so much that I make it this speech today. The Eid khutbah about this issue, because it bothers me a lot. I hope it doesn't bother me that I get on the minbar and talk about it. We need to talk about other things too, but it bothers me. What is it? In Atlantic City, and this is in my city, the first masjid in Atlantic City was Masjid Muhammad, and it was ran by African Americans, black people. We were in charge. Our masjid. We built it, we did what we could do, funded, however. It was majority of black people. And Islam reflected that in Atlantic City. It reflected the aspirations of black people. As more people immigrated to Atlantic City, different people from different countries, you would have noticed that they all agreed they were Muslims. So they came to Masjid Muhammad, and when they didn't, hold on one second. So when they came to the masjid, they didn't see the masjid as a place for their people and their aspirations as a people. So what did every one of them do? They came to the black masjid, saved up their money, and then ultimately started their own masjid. I want you to pay attention to this. And I'm quite sure Atlantic City is not unique in this. So the first masjid that broke off from the black masjid that was led by African Americans were the Egyptians and the Pakistanis together. Both people agreed, we're not following black people. I hate to say it like this, but it's just real. It's obvious when you critically think. They started a masjid where their people would be in charge, no longer black people. They didn't just say we all Muslims and people, we don't, ethnicity doesn't matter. We're all Muslim. They didn't do that. They went and started their own masjid. And then they fought among themselves which people would lead. Then, whenever that didn't work, they broke off into another masjid, a masjid ran by the Egyptians and a masjid ran by the Pakistanis, but still connected, but ran because they would fight. The Egyptians would win, then the Pakistanis would win. Then they would overthrow the Pakistanis, then the Egyptians. And it's been going back like that for years, right? Then ultimately, they split to two masjids, and the Egyptians took one, and the Pakistanis usually run another. This is true. Then there's an influx of Bengalis. The Bengalis come, and as a people, with their aspirations, they start slowly building, doing business, buying houses in areas where no one wants to be, building, till their numbers became strong. And then they at the masjid, they don't go to the black masjid. They go to the masjid where the other immigrants. So it's a consensus that we're not going with the blacks. That's an agreement. They're not the people we're going to follow. Those people should be following us. That's an agreement, understanding. Unwritten rule. So they go to the masjid with the others. Now, because they're strong, they start entering into the fight for positioning and overthrowing the Pakistanis and making the Bengali the imam. When that doesn't work, when they fight, the Bengalis start their own masjid. So after 20 years of that, what do you notice? A masjid based on people, from where those people are from. What are the aspirations? And that's how the masjids are based. Now, all of the masjids are based on ethnicity. A people and their aspirations as a people. Have you seen this in your cities? I can explain Atlantic City well because I've been here and I watched it and I've seen it. And I could go in details of it, like with deep details. That's funny. No Rodney Kinging for them. No, seriously. And to further my point, never in those masjids that were established have they ever had a black imam. Despite the majority of the population of the city are African Americans, and many of them are Muslims. I learned in America under black people. What you think? And I'm not being sarcastic. That's true. Where did I learn Islam? In America under black people. Is that good enough for you? Since we're curious, is that good enough for you? Is that valid Islamic learning? I learned in America under black people. Is that good enough learning? Am I qualified now? Or do I have to mention where I learned from someone else? Because I can do that too. But I just want to make sure where we at. Just curious. Should I mention where I learned from other people And would that make me qualified? All right, let me answer you, just helping you out. I got hundreds of ijazas. Hundreds. Does that make me qualify? Hundreds of ijazas. Not one, not two, not three, not four, hundreds. So if that makes me qualified, okay, then I'm qualified and we can continue. I have hundreds of ijazas, hundreds from all over the world. All right, now we can continue. Just curious. All right. So stay focused, my brother. And I got ijazas from all different people from all over the world. But that's not the point of the conversation, right? So, with that being said, there is an agreement in all of those messages that open that a black person can't be in charge. It's an unwritten rule that is well known to everyone, even the black people. Some deep stuff. I want you to think about that. Now, if that's a known fact, we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing wrong? As a people, we have to ask ourselves that. Because every people ensure that their aspirations and their culture is preserved, even in Islam. And these things are facts. So we're critically thinking our way through this. All these premises, all these different uh, statements should lead us to a conclusion that we can deal with and build upon. Now, I'm going to ask you a quick question because we're going to continue this. I have to go now and I ran out of time. I had something even more I wanted to go into. Okay, while y'all tell me why, and don't think I don't know how to pronounce your name, but don't think that I'm not mad. I'm not mad at all. But let me ask you, I learned from my scholars, who are your scholars and from whom did you get ijaza? Just curious, since we asked him. So you asked me, I'm gonna ask you. Who are your scholars and from whom you got ijaza since you're talking about it? Just curious. I'm not mad, just curious. Since we're talking about ijazas and scholars, who are your scholars and from whom did you get ijaza? Uh, I got it. We're not mad. We're just talking. Since you asked me the question, let me reverse it. From whom did you get ijaza and who are your scholars? Because you said my scholars and asked about ijaza. So obviously, if that's applicable to me, it's applicable to you. Who are your scholars and where did you get ijaza? Since we asked him. That's fair, right? Don't y'all think that's fair? You said my scholars. So be fair. That's fair. Because you didn't say, you said, I really don't know how I got mad, how I got you mad. I'm not mad. I'm just straightforward. I'm a proud black man. I'm telling you. I will speak directly. You can't just say anything. I'm a respond. I'm a proud, dignified African American Muslim. Proud and dignified. I don't have no inferiority complex at all to nobody. So that's what you feel. Not that I'm mad. I will speak clearly. I learned from my scholars. That means you have scholars. That it's normal to ask about the ijazat. Since on social media, everyone can freely speak freely. That's true. Who are your scholars that told you that? You can't say I have scholars and asking about ijazat. That assumption means you know something. And then you can't come back later and say, I have no ijazah, I'm still learning, and I'm not teaching. There's a contradiction there. You can't do both. Either you don't have scholars and you don't have ijazat, so you don't even know what scholars and ijazat is to ask about it. You can't do both. Either you know or you don't. If you understand, that's critically thinking. Wait a minute. I'm going to leave you alone. I think you got my point, right? So my scholar, and you have no ijazah, how do you have a scholar who never gave you an ijazah? So you just talking. Because if you had a scholar, that scholar would have given you by now, if he was a scholar and you were a student, an ijazah in something. So when you continue learning, with all due respect, then you will be able to say that. So don't come on challenging us with something you haven't done yourself, right? Don't even question us in that when you haven't done it yourself. Because when you ask the question, the assumption is that you already know, especially such a question. And since you agree that you don't know, be humble and sit and see what you can learn. With that, so I appreciate you just helping you out. So just benefit. And if you stick around long enough and you're actually sincere, you'll learn where we learn from, what are our ijazahs, what we know, and you'll learn that just by sticking around. And we do have scholars and we do have ijazat and all of that. Barakallahu bikum. I appreciate you though. Don't go nowhere and don't think I'm mad at you. I'm not. So, as I was saying, all of these things require us as a people to critically think. All of these things. And if we're ever going to make a real change, we have to. Because the assumption for us is that we must be a subjugated people. We must be a colonized people. We can never be free and independent. In order to reverse that thought for ourselves, because that's what's projected on us. But if we internalize it, it'll become our reality. So the only way to reverse it is to first demand from ourselves that we think and act as a free and independent people with our own aspirations and ideas. It's essential that we do that. So now that Islamic critical thinking part, we're going to have to apply it in every aspect and reevaluating our understanding of this deen. That's the summary of what I'm saying. Are there any questions in that? Do y'all follow me? Because we're going to build on this. And it's going to help us identify a lot of things that's holding us back. But it is painful. And listen, I want you to know something about me. All of us, because we've been together. I think most of you know this. Listen, we have to learn in a way where we're confident to repel aggression towards our community. We have to learn in a way where we're confident to repel aggression when it comes against our community and our people. That's important. That's how our masjids get taken over, because we too busy subjugated to someone else, and they end up in charge, and we get put out eventually. The old Arab saying, I let him in my house and he kicked me out. We better be careful with that. I let him in my house and he kicked me out. And that has happened a lot. So for us, it may sometimes appear quite aggressive. Because that's how we're made to think. We're made to think that we should be docile, humble, submissive, and tell us any old thing, even if it don't make no sense. Because you're black. You're supposed to accept this. Why? Why should I accept it? For what? We're afraid to ask that question. You can't tell boss no. Why not? Who even said he's boss? How did he become boss? I sure didn't nominate him boss. So how is he my boss? That's our mindset. Inshallah, we'll continue. May Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala put some benefit in what we conveyed today. It's necessary. If we're ever going to have real unity in Islam, we as a people have to initiate the change in the mindsets that's going to produce that unity. And we got to be unapologetic about it. There'll never be real unity in this ummah so long as one group of people in this ummah is oppressed and everyone else is silent. We'll never have real unity. So long as one group of people within our ummah are colonized, subjugated, oppressed, underserved, as an ummah, we're never going to have real unity. So it's necessary to deal with these issues. It's very necessary. Okay, I got 6 minutes. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask. Let me answer this one. How is the connection with Bermuda and Jamaican communities? I think it can be improved. We are working on that. We do have some connections, but it needs to be improved. But it is in the beginning stages with us. I'm talking about. I can't speak for others. With us, we do have connections with people in Bermuda and Jamaica, and inshallah, in the future, we'll, improve those relationships. The next thing I'm going to do, I don't know. I might do it later on tonight if I have time, or right, is this is a copy of the ijaza that was given to our brothers and sisters and students at the retreat in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's a real ijaza with real scholars that was given to us from our scholars. Just one of many. And I was going to show you through the ijaza another point of critical thinking that we were talking about yesterday and why it's important. And I was going to not only go through, and I'm going to do it inshallah, not only go through it as a bunch of names, but to show you why ijaza, why as-sanad, chains of narration, are important, especially in our context of understanding Islam, with what we're dealing with right now on the ground. So I'll maybe do that tonight or tomorrow, because I think it's extremely important if we critically think, and is a reason why this subject has been blocked from our communities specifically. There's a political agenda behind blocking us from this connection and skipping the whole history just to go back to the time of the Salaf. That's what we call in the hood cap, right? Your words are not disrespectful. You'll benefit. Don't worry about it. Don't trust me, my brother. Don't. I'm not upset. I don't take it personal. None of that. And I would hope you do the same. You will benefit. We do have our own asanid. We do have our own shuyukh. We do have our own books. Yes, 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 yes. We do have it. That is the only way we learn. We don't learn another way. Our scholars of Islam, not just Black scholars, our scholars in Islam, that's the only way to learn Islam, is through an unbroken chain of narration. Everyone has to do that. Whoever doesn't do it is not learning Islam properly. All right? So just stick around. And inshallah, you will benefit. Just stick around. That's all. Okay. My brother. Trust me, Black folks can teach you some stuff. Just stick around. Why does he keep saying Black? Because the mentality is that Black people can't teach you anything, right? So stick around and watch Black people teach you something. You're going to learn stuff from black people that you never learned from no one else. Stick around. Stay around long enough. You'll see it. Like, whoa, black people do know some stuff. Stick around. Just hang out for a little while. How do we better unite when we as black people have so many diverse backgrounds in terms of where we grew up, our families? It seems if other communities somehow have a connection to each other that we don't have, whether there is family ties and tribe. You know what we got to do, Sidi Ismail? We have to realize what we have in common. Even though we're all around the country, where we grew up, we as black people in America, in the world context, we have many things in common. Right? We have many things in common. And the things we don't have in common are very small compared to the things we have in common, which makes us a united people. So we need to be honest with ourselves in the things we have in common. And inshallah, that will help us. Because that's everyone has the same thing. They're from different places too, but they have a common thing. A lot of it is country. So that is difficult for us, but this is our country. We all grew up in here. We have a certain understanding of this society and how has it affected us as a people. So even for us, it's the same. Inshallah, we'll work it out. All right, I gotta go. May Allah reward you all. For the purpose of what we're talking about is synonymous. It has a technical difference, Isnad and Senate, but for what we're talking about, it's synonymous. But technically, it is a difference. But we'll talk about that when we talk about the science of hadith. But for what we're using it for, it's the same thing. All right. Eid Mubarak to you all. May Allah bless you. May Allah give you a beneficial day. Enjoy yourselves, inshallah. And either we'll see you later on tonight or tomorrow. Barakallahu bikum wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.